All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Critical Q&A number 481 on this 12th of January in the year of our Lord 2025. And thank you for joining me today. I'll give you guys some Benson cam, but I need to do something real fast in order to do that. Sorry. First, let's go over to the host and chat screen so we can see you guys. And actually, no, I don't. I don't have Benson cam this week. I'm sorry. I suck. I wish I did, but I do not. So I will get it for you next week. Let me turn the Q&A section on before I forget. Please post your questions here. Start Q&A. Okay, good. So I can see the chat. I can see your questions now in the Q&A. I do have a little bit of things to tell you about before we get into the Q&A, but I thought, I'm at the right place. Yeah, I thought I might go over a couple things first, but I wanted to get that Q&A box set up and everything rolling. I should probably write myself, even after all these years, I still get a little, when I go live, I still get a little nervy, get a little flummoxy, because it's live. And I think it's kind of like Saturday Night Live, which is really pretty much the only thing we can look at that's live, unless you go to like theater or something, where when it's live, it's just, there's no substitute for it. There's nothing else like it. As a creator, as somebody who talks to people, live it's a whole different thing from pre-recorded. Okay. Hey guys. Yeah. Well, welcome, Blank Bullet. Welcome back. So I was asked a couple weeks ago, something that I bookmarked, and I'm coming back around to it now. And somebody asked me about the fixated person rundown. Now, I don't have lots of information for you, but something tickled my memory about it. And I went and looked, and I couldn't find anything on a decent, I just spent a little bit of time looking online. Well, okay, let me back up a second. There's a lot of Scientology that has never leaked out of the church. A lot. The whole truth rundown, not the St. Pete Times newspaper article, but the Scientology concentrated gaslighting rundown of actions that you take on somebody called the truth rundown has never leaked out of the church. Bruce Hines and I are the only ones who've ever broken it down for people. The L rundowns have not leaked out of the church. They have been written down or documented from the memory of past L's auditors, high-level Scientology auditors who left and wrote down, what they were doing when they were delivering the L's, because the L's there are only 3 of them, and there are only so many things you do on them. And if all you do all day is deliver the L's to people, or you're pretty familiar with it, then you could probably write it all down, or at least describe it to people pretty well, in the same way that Bruce and I have described the truth rundown, right? We just did it from memory. There's a lot of other things in Scientology like that just nobody really knows about it or talks about it or knows anything about it. And not just technical procedures either. There are policies and procedures that are done within the organization by the Office of Special Affairs, for example, that are not really leaked or described anywhere as to how you go about doing them. There's a thing called an Office of Special Affairs estimate. They do estimations. And I only had this verbally described to me, and I wasn't even supposed to know about it when I was in the church. OSA estimations are similar to evaluations, where, you do those org evals, you use the data series, and you see all the plus points and the out points and all that. It's a procedure similar or analogous to that, but it's more for estimating the threat level or danger or what to do about some situation. And here are possible options or something. This is kind of my understanding of what an OSA estimation is. And it's kind of this semi-formal procedure. I never did one. I never saw one. I've just heard of them. You know, and so even when you're in the church, and even when you are curious when you're in the church and paying a lot of attention, there are still things that are not going, that you're just not going to know about or hear anything about or see. There was a person I met on the RPF who, Jason Bennick was his name. He's out now, but he's not out. He's still very, very, very in Scientology. But he told me, alluded one time. He just, you know, was very, very sort of, he didn't go into any detail about this. He just said, oh yeah, there's stuff at the higher levels of stuff that nobody knows anything about. The public don't know shit about, you know, it's confidential posts, confidential organizations. I mean, full on organizations that nobody knows anything about, you know, and to this day, I have wondered whether we really do know everything. You know, we know about the whole corporate labyrinth. We know about author services. We know about Church of Spiritual Technology. We know about the corporate structure of RTC and how they, you know, hold all the trademarks and service marks, because that's all publicly available information. So what isn't publicly available that we don't know about in terms of, you know, stuff at the higher levels that maybe we just don't know anything about? Confidential organizations, you know, I mean, he wasn't just trying to, like, you know, Jason wasn't trying to be coy with me either. You know, he was just being very matter of fact. It was just sort of the statement, you know, and I don't know if he really realized he was supposed to be saying that to me. Anyway, I thought I would share that with you and then get into this. Let me show you something. Go over to this page. And here are the list of the flag service organization. This is actually from an older website. This is from an old What is Scientology website that is still online that I looked up. Because you would need to update this list for the things that you can do at Flag now, include Superpower and the Cause Resurgence Rundown. Those are also Flag only rundowns. But this list here are the things that you can only get in Florida. You have to go to Flag to do these things. It's not just OT levels 6 and 7 that are delivered at Flag. They are Flag only, as it shows here. But there's all these other specialist things. There's those L rundowns. And somebody asked me the other day about a couple weeks ago, about the fixated person rundown, which you can see at the bottom of the list there. And here's what I remember about the fixated person rundown. I think I saw something. Now, again, this is just tickling my memory, and I'm not 100% on this, but I believe that the technical procedure underlying this has to do with overts and withholds. The idea is that you have become fixated on someone, your attention or desire or, you know, whatever is just, you can't stop thinking about this person in some fashion or another, right? Obsession. And Hubbard, it's not a difficult thing to parse out that Hubbard would say, well, it's overts and withholds that are causing that, right? In other words, your wrong deeds. You've been a bad boy towards that person or towards people like that person, or somehow that person is, you know, is freaking you out because of they are somehow missing your withholds, another Scientology phrase meaning you're wondering if they know what a bad person you are or what you've done, right? They're doing things that make you wonder whether or not they know what you've been up to, right? And you know that nervous paranoia you get when you do something wrong and then you wonder whether people find out or not, right? Well, do they know? Does my mom know I ate that cookie? That's the worry and the consternation that'll like drive you crazy, right? Just does she know? Once you know she knows, all that goes away and then you just get your punishment. But but the stress and the anxiety comes from the, do they know, do they not know, right? And that is called a missed withhold in Scientology. And it's a very real thing. I mean, obviously we've all felt that, but Hubbard takes it, to this nth degree in Scientology, like he does with everything. So he would, I believe from what I saw of the Fixated Person Rundown, it would be addressing overts and withholds against the person that you are fixated on, or the thing that you are fixated on. Probably, sort of an earlier similar thing. Let's find, okay, if that doesn't blow it, is there an earlier person on the track who resembles or restimulates Joe Blow, right, or Sally Sue? Oh yeah, 20 million years ago I was obsessed with Julius Caesar's great grandkid or something, and away we go with all the overts against Julius Caesar's great to the nth degree grandson or whatever, or grandfather. So anyway, just being silly there, but that's that. So I thought I'd throw that out there. And now get your questions into the Q&A section, because I can't answer them from the comment section. I see some people putting the comments in the regular comment section, and you have to go to that Q&A section. And I only run this from this side, so unfortunately I've not been on your end of the Q&A thing. Because I can't, because I'm logged in and it knows it's me and this kind of thing. So I can't really have exactly the experience you're having with the Q&A. But you got to go to that box or find that place where it says, please post your questions here and put them there. Okay, enough about that. Let's go ahead and start getting on with your questions. Okay, from the top. Where's my... There's the box. Okay, good. All right, ex-witness Vernon. Did Mike Rinder have a funeral or memorial service like most Scientologists when they die? Did he get cremated? Vernon, I have no idea. I am not at all aware of Mike's funeral arrangements or memorial service situation or anything like that. So I'm just going to tell you a great big fat I don't know. But I am absolutely positive that whatever he's doing, it has absolutely nothing to do with Scientology traditions, as far as that goes. Yeah, I don't know if he got cremated or not. Sorry. Okay, young Matador. Hey, Chris, if Sea Org or OSA were required to evacuate bases, would they follow government orders? And what happens to all the files? Will someone go down with the files like a ship's captain? Not an entirely bad concept, actually. Yes, Henny, please put that in the Q&A box so I can respond to it. Okay, evacuating bases. My personal experience with this was during the riots, the early 1990s riots. I was on training off and on down in Los Angeles, and of course I worked in Santa Barbara, which is really only an hour and a half north of Los Angeles. So we always had a finger on the pulse of what was going on down there. And when the riots happened, the students and staff, the male staff of the 12-story HGB building on Sunset, right? Is there Hollywood or Sunset? I think it's Sunset. It's been so long since I've even been down there. Wow, I can't believe I'm forgetting that stuff. I didn't. Anyway, the HGB, the 12-story building with all the management people and the trainees and stuff like that. In the early 90s, when the riots were going on, they surrounded that building with like clubs and baseball bats, the Scientology Sea Org staff and the staff who were training there and stuff to protect that building. And they absolutely would have gone all the way to the mat on that in protecting that facility, in terms of clubbing people coming at him, or if rioters had come or something, then it would have been a physical, free-for-all. Scientologists take the security of their facilities very seriously. They believe that, it's not because the building's holy or something. They just, it's their property and they feel very strongly about, the sanctity and right of ownership of their property. There were people in, I was told after the fact, I wasn't there, but at the base, at the complex, Big Blue, there were armed security and people who were, given the right to defend the base, or were called to defend the base. Again, a bunch of male staff, and I think some of them were armed. I mean, the one person told me that they were, and that there was a lot of smoke and it was hard to see. And, that at one point somebody almost got shot. So, good times. So no, I don't think that, unless they were absolutely forced by military or police personnel to evacuate, or by emergency personnel who physically came onto the property and ordered them and stayed until they left, kind of thing, I really don't think that they would leave. And a lot of them would feel a false sense of security on the base because of the concrete buildings. The structural integrity of that property is probably, pretty good. They did all the earthquake renovations. They do try to keep the property up, as far as I understand. And if I'm wrong about that, anybody has any inside skinny on that, please share it with me. But of course, this fire that happened out in Los Angeles this week, still going in some areas, if I understand right. These are, when those winds get going and stuff, it's the concrete alone isn't going to save you. So I think that they would stay unless they were absolutely forced to go. And, protecting those files would actually be a top priority for them. The PC folders, because they would all go up in smoke. And there have been times where orgs and missions have burned, and the PC folders have gone up in smoke and been destroyed. That's happened. It happened to Pasadena in the 70s, the mission that my mom and when my parents worked there, there was a fire. And I think it was a restaurant-caused fire from next door or a couple doors down. It wasn't a targeted attack against Scientology. And but the whole place burned, right? And they had to rebuild. Anyway, so that's what I can say about that. Okay, cool. Xion says, I enjoyed watching your live podcast of parasocial relationships. Thank you. Even though I did catch it live, it's brave of you to give us a look behind the scenes of Content Creator. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be open about any part of this process. It's fun. Okay, ex-witness Vernon. I don't think it's right how some SPTV creators make fun of your university accomplishment. What are your feelings about this? Thank you for asking. I'm not sure why you can't post in the Q&A, Greek Sunshine. That is annoying to me. I'm not sure what's up with that. Yeah, I can't go back in the regular comment section, so I can't pull them up on the screen, so I'm trying to not pull questions from the regular comment feed. But I'm sorry if you can't get into the Q&A. I am not sure why that would be. I cannot attest to the structural integrity of YouTube these days, unfortunately. There are issues with YouTube. But I've got everything set on my end, so it should be workable for you. Anyway. Let's get to your question here, Vernon. My degree, which is here on the wall, you can see it, says University of Salford. This is to certify that Chris Shelton has been awarded the degree of Master of Science in the Psychology of Coercive Control with distinction. Which means I graduated, better than everybody else. I mean, not everybody else. A lot of people can graduate with distinction, but it just means I did a really good job. I am trying to not make more of my education than it is, but I'm also trying to be acknowledged for what it is, right? I have loosely referred to myself in an academic way, but technically speaking, I'm not really an academic in that I don't work in academia. I do not publish papers for a living or do professional research for a living. At least not at an academic level for an academic institution, right? So technically speaking, I shouldn't call myself an academic, but I do academic level research. When I do research things, I don't go into it lightly. And you guys are the beneficiaries of that. But as far as people, putting it down or whatever, at first that really bugged me because, of course, you are kind of status conscious of the title or the accomplishment. They get the letters after my name, and God damn it, I earned those letters, so I'm putting them there. And I don't care whether people think that's uppity or not. Maybe it is. But after a lifetime of servitude and in slavery, I think I'm entitled. And there are people out there who just don't like me no matter what I do. And I okay, I pissed them off. I said the wrong thing. I got temperamental. Whatever I did. And then they're going to invalidate me and my credentials and my, reliability and my, accuracy and that kind of thing, right? Well, I invite people to fact check my material, and very rarely does anybody really do that. Most of the time they just make it personal and attack me and think that their work is done. They hate my voice. They think I'm gay. They think I'm still in the closet. They, all this stuff that I get over the years. And it's been consistent over the 10, 11 years that I've been doing this now. The same things get thrown at me over and over again. And when I got this degree, that kind of stuff started coming out, mainly from Marissa and some others who decided that would be Liz Gale as well decided to attack me on this point. A lot of people who don't understand much of anything about how the world works think that you need to have your 4-year degree before you can get a master's, that somehow this skipping the line is a cheat, or you must have gone to a diploma mill or something like that. And this is just them demonstrating their ignorance about how the educational process really works. I mean, it literally takes you 2 minutes of Googling to find out how the APEL programs works at pretty much every university out there, right? The idea that you can get accreditation based on your professional experience. That's what that whole thing is about. And that's what I did. And I had years of experience in this field before I, went for the master's program. So I and hundreds of others have graduated the program and gone on to do some really great work in consultancy, in the legal and public policy area, in therapy work, because there's a lot of therapists who have done the program, and of course people in the domestic violence sphere who also do work using this degree as part of their credentials, and rightfully so. Coercive control is a recognized problem in a number of domains. So I can show you my papers. I can show you my grades. I can, it's all there. It's all real, and it's a real deal. And I believe that I sit here rightfully proud of that accomplishment. So to finally get to the final answer to your question, I really don't care anymore what ignorant people have to say about me, my education, or my experience. Opinions based in ignorance or in maliciousness aren't worth the time it takes to hear them. So, that's kind of my attitude about that. Okay. Let's carry on. X-Scion. Is there a playbook for YouTube content creators purposely creating parasocial relationships using their channels similar to a cult leader's playbook? That's a great question. I'm not sure, because I haven't really broken it down for myself or analyzed it in a sort of a bullet point sequential series of, okay, if you do this and this and this and this, you're going to be creating parasocial relationships. But I'm gonna go maybe a little bit out on a limb right now and say that in the vast majority of cases, I'm gonna guess, this is pure supposition on my part, but I think in the vast majority of cases where, uncomfortable or inappropriate levels of, parasocial relationships are happening between YouTubers and their audience, it's an organic, mistaken thing that just happened because people get excited on both ends of the equation about hearing from each other about the admiration and the kind of awe that can flow, and in these things, right? You get a lot of validation and a lot of, oh my God, you're the greatest, you saved my life, everything about you is wonderful, and I love hearing you. I'm telling you, that is a head rush, man. It's a rush, and it feels great, and it should. It's meant to. I mean, it's a good thing to know you've done good work and people are happy with you for it. But, then you want more. And that's where you have to get, as a content creator, that's where you have to get your head straight about what this is all about and what you're really doing here. And yes, then there are people who purposefully are trying to do that. I don't think, for example, that there's anybody... I'm not going to go there, actually. I'm just going to say... I think that people who purposefully do this are your cult leader types on the internet. Teal Swan absolutely purposefully does this. And in a way, the way I would sort of structurally break it down is I would say that, like we said yesterday with the influence continuum, right? Where do parasocial relationships lie on the influence continuum? Well, they don't really. It's more of a mechanism that impels a person down the influence continuum, right? You develop these parasocial relationships and you can start getting all weird in the head about the value of this person to you and, the codependency that develops. Well, if you're trying to develop codependent relationships with your audience, then you are a proto or, the beginning cult leader, because that's the mechanics that you're putting into place. And that's that kind of relationship you're eliciting, you're trying to create. So I would say it's really along the same framework or lines as the cult sequence of actions and dynamics, right? Yeah, I'd say the playbook is actually the same when it comes to purposefully doing it, because the end result is going to be a very culty mindset. And what you then do with it in terms of that community that you're building up, well, then you're going to turn it into monetization and real life opportunities for sucking more value out of this as the cult leader, right? You want to have workshops and seminars. I mean, this is the Teal Swan playbook. I don't know if, this is also the Andrew Tate playbook. If we go, to the other end of this, right? Also very, 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 very similar. Pretty much parallel in every way as far as the control mechanisms and parasocialness of the incel community and the Andrew Tate tech bro, incel bro culture. That's a toxic place. And it uses all of those tools very effectively. Okay, so that's what I'll say about all that for now. But feel free to ask me more about that stuff. I love talking about this stuff. I just don't want to go. I feel like sometimes I go on these real long tears that are probably a little unnecessary, so I'm trying to... All right, ex-witness Vernon. Do Scientologists who work at OSA work a lot of hours? Is their salary $50 a week? Okay, yes, and yes. Do they work long hours? Yeah, they do. Yeah, the Sea Org does. They are on call 24/7, and they work very full days and well into the night. They're okay. The least possible day of work for a Sea Org member, like the most comfortable day possible for a Sea Org member in a typical average day of the week, is getting to post at 8:30 a.m., mustering up, 8 a.m., mustering up breakfast. Sorry, flip that. Breakfast, 8 a.m., muster 8:30, go to post, be on post until, have a half hour for lunch somewhere between 12 and 1 or 12 and 1:30 or something, right? 11:30 and 1:30. Go back to post. No break times unless, you kind of just slither off to have an informal one. There's no scheduled breaks in the afternoon. You have a half hour for dinner somewhere between 5 and 7. depending on what org you're in and how the base is scheduled. And then you're back on post from 7 until 11, 11:30, 11:30, and then off to bed. Let's say 11, right? So 8:30 in the morning until 11 at night is the least Sea Org schedule you can have. So yeah, pretty long hours. And yes, their salary is $50 a week. And that's before you take out the Social Security. Okay, here we go. Xion. When a person watches a movie and cries at some point, are they being triggered or simply being empathetic to the storyline? Does drama equal trauma? That's a great question, because I sort of implied that yesterday, and I probably shouldn't have when I was talking about how people cry and hearing about sob stories or the abuses that we have gone through, or that ex-cult members go through. I don't know that the word triggered is necessarily the right word to use whenever anybody is having a sad or really, really experiencing an empathetic response to pain and tragedy. But it doesn't mean they're not triggered either, right? I mean, they could be. And it's some individual, right? But very context specific for the person. So I shouldn't have spoken too generally about that. That was a good catch on that. Because the answer to your question is sometimes, right? Does drama equal trauma? No, not always. Drama has lots of different reasons for existing beyond trauma. There are social reasons for drama. There are power reasons for trauma or for drama. There are attention-seeking behaviors wrapped up in drama that are not necessarily only fed by or created by trauma. Right? People have emotional needs, and people have desires. They have goals and intentions to accomplish things. And sometimes gaining social credibility or reputation by using drama is a tool that people will use in certain social circumstances, like high school playgrounds or grade school playgrounds, or high school campuses. College campuses, right, where we're all trying to learn and sort out and figure out how to do this and navigate our way through social hierarchies. During those time periods, there's an awful lot of drama, and a lot of that drama is being caused by people playing each other and figuring out how to do this, and sometimes doing it right and a lot of times doing it wrong. And that's not necessarily trauma connected, although some of that behavior can absolutely be incited by trauma, or be compelled by trauma-like reactions, right? So sure, that could be a thing, but it's not. Drama and trauma and this stuff there's no single source for this stuff, right? We're all different, and trauma is something that lives in your body as an after effect and result of, physical or emotional, psychological abuse, and that's what it is, and it's there. Right? But it doesn't cause all the problems in your life. It just causes a lot of them. Okay. All right. OBG Foster. I just saw Wicked, and I recommend it to any skeptic atheist. What did Church of Scientology members think about the ending of The Wizard of Oz? Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I've actually, I haven't watched Wicked yet. But that's interesting to me. I'll throw out, by the way, just since we're talking about this, and I love recommending this. What was? Oh no! No! How am I? One moment, and I will get this. Oh, now what was the, never mind. I'm going off of your question. I'm here to answer your question, so let's go to that. Sorry about the distraction there. What do the Church Scientology members think about The Wizard of Oz? They love it. The idea of the Matrix, simulation theory, prison planet concepts, the man behind the curtain kind of concepts that we are all secretly being controlled by, a cabal of international bankers and media conglomerates, and that there's a secret government, that there's a secret control structure really running things that you can't ever really be sure about or really understand or grasp the full enormity of. Right? All of those things are synonymous, aren't they? And it creates a mystery. It creates a kind of paranoia because you're afraid of things that you can't see and by design won't be able to see. So in a way, it's very analogous to a supernatural terror. And Scientologists are deep into the idea that Scientology is the light that saves everyone from that mystery, because Scientology is the only thing in the entire universe that can shed a light on those mysteries, because L. Ron Hubbard figured it all out and no one else has. All anybody else has ever tried to do, Hubbard says, is entrap and enslave people. And he's come along and he's here to save us. Pretty typical cult leader shtick. But Scientologists buy it hook, line, and sinker. That's why they're cult members. And this whole concept is very, very core to what Scientology is to how Scientologists think about Scientology. There we go. Not what it really is, but how they think about it. Okay, cool. X-Cyan, do you believe that you are putting yourself at risk doing what you do on YouTube? Are you worried that a fan will get mad at you for some reason and cause you harm? You're getting right to it today, X-Cyan, and I appreciate it. Because there is always a danger in putting yourself out there as an individual against a group of people, whether in real life, in a work, play, entertainment, education format or form or whatever, anywhere you are, right? You put yourself up against a group and you are potentially at risk. And on YouTube, you are definitely doing that. There's no question about it. If you present controversial information or information that people can potentially disagree with in a strong way, and I have definitely put a lot of information out over the years that a lot of people have disagreed with in very strong ways. Cult members, ex-cult members, academics, journalists, media personalities. I've pissed them all off at one time or another. And that's just part of the package of doing this work and getting your wits around the fact that that's going to happen and that not everybody's always going to be with you. Takes a long time to get okay with that. At least it did me. Long time. And I still fret, because I hate being misunderstood. That's my big button. That's the thing that I actually kind of triggers me a little bit. It really gets my goat when I'm misrepresented and seemingly on purpose. That's when I just really lose it. But I'm bad on that because I'm not always accurate in spotting whether somebody means to do it or not. That's how I've messed things up sometimes with people. But regardless, the idea that people are going to come after me is something I have thought about a couple times. There have been a couple instances where I've gone after groups or individuals, and I was afraid that they might show up at my doorstep. And hasn't happened yet. I have received, received some pretty interesting letters in the mail. And I've gotten some pretty interesting emails over the years, but that's about as close as it's come to me personally. Nobody's ever really knocked on my door. I've never seen anybody going through my trash. My car's not bugged. I don't have tracking devices on it or anything. I'm not being followed by PIs. And I'm very, very thankful for that, because I didn't want that to happen to me as a result of doing this work. And so far it hasn't. So that's kind of the reality of the situation. And I don't spend time worrying about whether a fan is going to come after me or not. I've never really spent any time worrying about that, because it's a random circumstance. There's nothing that creators do to compel irrational people to stalk them. Stalkers stalk for their own reasons. Now, the creator, just like with a domestic violence abuser, the spouse who's being abused didn't do anything to deserve to be beaten on. You know, they didn't put themselves in the wrong place. You know what I mean? And same with content creators who get stalked, and it happens all the time. And it's really gross behavior. And yet, you know, they didn't do anything to compel that or make that happen or anything like that, right? So, you know, what are you going to do? All right, George Smiley, I missed this one earlier. On an old Scientology protest video, someone mentioned New York patter in body routing. Is this a thing? If not, is there a script when running free stress tests on a sidewalk? Yes, there is a script, and yes, it is the New York patter. It was developed in New York. This was in the late 90s, I think. I think it was late 90s, 98, 99 time period. They were having... Over in Russia, they were having tremendous results selling Dianetics books on the Russian subways and stuff. And they tried to do this kind of thing over in New York, and it didn't really go. And then they brought the Russians over, and the Russians did it on the New York subway system. And apparently were just as successful there as they were over in Russia. Around that same time period, or just after that, if I'm remembering the sequence right, there was a great deal of attention paid to the free stress test line and trying to get people in to sell books and get them. Basically, it was a book selling patter. It was not a get them in and on to service patter. And by patter, I mean a script, a series of things that you say, right? Fixed lines that you say, or, you know, things you're supposed to say in your own words, but here's the concepts, right? And this patter for the New York stress test line became very successful. They worked it. They worked on it until they could get books sold on a routine basis using this line. Not 100% success at all, but they were getting statistics and they were getting a lot of numbers. And ever since then, the New York patter, as I understand it, has been the way that you do stress tests. And there's a whole little, you know, how they do it. You sit down and you pick up the cans and and there's a whole little thing you say, and here's the explanation for what we're doing, and, you know, okay, have you been stressed today or whatever? And, you know, they do the whole little thing with the e-meter. So that's what they're referring to with that. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, lots of questions. All right, I better hurry up here. Japan or Green Gables, do they still offer the EST repair rundown now that EST isn't a thing anymore, and having people who did Landmark Forum take it? Yes and yes. The EST repair rundown is meant for EST, Landmark Forum, anything that Werner Erhard ever touched or put his hands on. Scientology wants to repair you before they do Scientology with you, because Scientology's position about Werner Erhard is that he is a squirrel. He took L. Ron Hubbard's material and he altered it for his own ends, and he created EST with it. And EST developed into the Landmark, and then Landmark Forum, and then just the Forum, and now Landmark again. I mean, it all goes, you know, round and round. Anne and I have talked about this in a podcast recently. And we're going to be doing more work on Landmark stuff, because, man, you know, just every parallel to Scientology you can imagine, for a lot of obvious reasons, including the plagiarism. So from Scientology's point of view, they need to fix you because you went and got involved in a squirrel group, and no, you know, not like it's you're a bad person. You're here doing Scientology. Now we want to fix you. So we're going to do this repair on you, and then we will give you the straight Scientology. So that's what that's about. And yeah, they definitely do that. Exion, do you consider those who follow you on social media as a separate group, different than regular people, and to be treated as a celebrity would treat a fan? Okay to say hi to, but keep your distance. Well, no, I don't think about my fans as people to avoid or that I different than regular people. I don't think of any of you as different from regular people. First off, I think of you as people who are interested in what I have to say. That's about it. That's about as much as I put into it at this point. There have been moments, like I said earlier, where you have these head rushes. And those are fun, but they're kind of euphoric moments, right? They come and go, and you go, okay, back down to earth. Let's get back to work, right? You don't let it go to your head. Not sure if this is the right moment to share this or not. Be treated as somebody between a fan. I can say hi to, but keep your distance. Yeah, I see, because I don't keep my distance from you guys. I get emails from you guys. I've gotten Facebook messages from you guys. I get tweets and DMs and all kinds of communications over the years from y'all. And I don't write back like, oh, well, Now, a couple of times I have gotten a little heady. Okay, I have gotten a little bit like, over the years. I will absolutely own that. And that was also part of the recovery process of losing the conceit and the egotism from Scientology too. It's a little bit of a package deal on that one, right? There was onion peeling and ego stroking and ego boosting and stuff. And all of those things kind of, are their own thing, but you put it all together in Chris Shelton and it comes out as sometimes I wasn't a great guy. What am I going to say? I mean, who's perfect? I definitely am not. I think I have successfully not lorded anything over anybody. And I think I've managed to not be arrogant, but I've been accused of that. And so, I have to step back sometimes and be a little bit like, well, am I, or did that come across that way? Or was I being that way? So, so have I thought that way from time to time? Yeah, I guess I have to say that I have, but I feel I've corrected it now. Like I don't feel that way now. And I haven't felt that way in quite a while. Maybe this is a good time to share this story. So let me share this with you. It was something I learned from Dan Aykroyd. And I remember it from a book about Saturday Night Live. A bunch of interviews were done on Saturday Night Live's cast and crew, Lauren, all of them, right? Producers, writers, a big book published years ago. And all of them, I mean, not just the original set of guys, everybody. And Dan Aykroyd had one of the smartest and just like spot on things to say about his experience with fame. And he said there's a period where when you get big, when it happens, you have about 2 years. This is Dan Aykroyd saying this, right? You have about 2 years to get your head straight, where you're going to party, you're going to get all this money, you're going to get a bunch of people who suddenly forget the word no. No one around you is saying no to you anymore. You want to do shit, you want to get shit, you want to have shit, you want this, you want that. Maybe this is illegal, maybe this is immoral. Nobody's saying no. Everybody wants a little bit of what you got, and so they're going to give you whatever they think you need and want so that they can have some of what you have. The groupie entourage phenomena. But Aykroyd wasn't warning about the groupies. He was saying you got to get your head straight, because you're going to put up with that groupie entourage crap if you're in that same fucked up headspace. Right? I'm going to be obscene about this. And so 2 years, you either see what's going on and realize you are not all that and never were. You had a moment, or you're having moments, or you're doing good work, but don't let that get to your head as though you're some kind of godlike figure, because you're not. You're just as human as you always were. and you still got to put your socks on in the morning and all that, right? But there's a period of time where you got to figure that out, and you got to come out of that period and either get it straight and be able to survive and navigate and have a career, or you tank. And there's tons and tons of people who have tanked, and tons of people who only half figured things out, right? Or get addicted or get screwed up in the process, and their mental health is actually damaged as a result of becoming a celebrity. And it's, you know, it's more and more known these days that this is a very, very real thing. So on a much smaller level, right, I can relate in, you know, in a distant way to that, because of the experiences that I've had. And I'm actually thankful that I have not been launched into the kind of fame that demands that kind of reflection, you know, with those kinds of temptations and money and opportunities being thrown at you. I mean, man, you know, so got to figure that stuff out. I feel at this point that I think of my audience as regular people who watch my work and interact with me as an equal. I don't think of myself as superior to you guys at all. And maybe I'm saying that there were times in the past where I sort of would get a little bit of a thing about that, but I just don't really feel like that anymore, you know? And I don't know if that's age and recovery and reflection and all the other stuff. I don't know what it is, but I know that's how I feel. So that's what I can say about that. Okay. Let's go here. Henny. Things feel chaotic, and I'm having anxiety dealing with cults and their depravity within plain sight. How do we combat them, especially if they're higher ups in government say? I totally hear you, Henny. This is what I meant when I said a few weeks ago that we're in for rough times, right? Is we are. We're in for economic rough times right now, unless we get leadership that sees what's going on with the economic inequality and the income inequality specifically, and starts dealing with that as the problem that it is. Now, let me say, in the side of pluses now, okay, I've talked an awful lot recently about the negatives of our economic situation and kind of the global theater and the bigger picture things that are going on beyond just one or two cults. And cult thinking is, Henny, you're spot on. There's all kinds of cult thinking going on right now. And as a lot of it is being created very purposefully in social media spaces and in ideological spaces right now. There's an awful lot of that. I've talked about the cycles of history and governments, and I talked about that stuff for a reason, because of the fact that, you know, those things are beyond our control. We can mitigate, we can't stop things like cycles of history from happening. So, but we can recognize when we're in them and what's happening, and therefore, and try to navigate those things as best we can. I wish I knew more about how to give you economic advice, but I don't have that. I'm not even going to pretend to or even try to. You can figure that stuff out with other experts. But as far as the cult stuff goes, the way to navigate this is to get curious about people and do the things that I've been talking about for years in terms of meeting your neighbors, getting in touch with the people around you in the real world. Forming strong social bonds in the real world is how we're going to overcome, at a personal level, an awful lot of what is going on right now with the social media and political divisiveness and tension and anxiety due from cultic thinking, economic pressures, et cetera, right? Job markets, education factors. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. But you can navigate this better with a little help from your friends. And if you don't have friends, it's like, well, you know, we got to build up our social muscles again to go get some and get meaning and purpose in our life, as defined by the groups that we're in and by ourselves. It's okay to be part of groups. It's okay to be part of something bigger than yourself and not be in a cult, right? And then have a healthy attitude about it and work with other people and reach across the aisle even, to a degree, obviously, with people who can and will be civil with you. But try, I mean, make efforts in this direction. tragedy comes from missed opportunities and untaken roads, right? It's when we know better and don't do because we know it won't work anyway. No, let's not be that way right now. We gotta inject a little bit more optimism into ourselves in terms of our future, because here's the thing about the media right now and the news right now is it is a cesspool of bad news and future predictions. It really is. It's really, really, really bad. So as much as possible, eject from social media. Eject from news media even. Find some good news sources. Ground News is a great one. I'd love for those guys to sponsor my channel. Ground News is a pretty good app, right? And I would suggest using it for your news media sources. BBC is pretty good for international reporting. They kind of suck at UK reporting, is what the people in the UK tell me. But find good sources that are not riling you up or making you feel like it's all doom and gloom tomorrow, because it's not. We've got time to sort things out. We've got time to fix things. None of this is permanent. And in fact, all of these predictions about the doom and gloom could be horribly, horribly wrong. All it takes is a couple people in key positions to change things or be changed in some fashion, and the world could turn on a dime. It's happened before, right? So we always have to keep that in mind. I was talking to my wife the other day about this stuff, because we can get pretty doom and gloom in this household sometimes about the nature of the future and where we're going. I don't think that's uncommon these days, but I always have to tell myself and tell you guys, right, that no matter how good you are and how good your knowledge set and predictive power is, as a human being, you're biased and you're possibly wrong. And you got to always keep that in mind as a point of optimism. And then, Henny and anybody else who can, if you can do this, if you have the time to do this, if you have the ability to do this, get active. Be part of social groups around you, right? The thing that changed America back in the day was group effort, not individuals. And we have fallen for the sort of myth of the individual, the myth of the Superman, a little bit in our thinking in modern times, right? If we cannot individually bear the brunt of, the challenge, then somehow we are a failure and shouldn't even try or something. I don't even know anymore what the thinking is on that, but I just want to be a little bit more encouraging in that direction. And I don't know. I don't know if these words are helping at all, but that's what I'm throwing in your direction, is there are reasons to be optimistic. Lots of them. You don't have to blow sunshine up your butt. Okay. I'm not suggesting lying to yourself, but I am suggesting keeping perspective. My favorite word, keeping perspective on you got the bad. Okay. Remember, there's a lot of good, and you got to go find that, because it's not in the interest. Remember, at all times when you're using social media and news media, it is not in the best interest of either of those things to feed you good news. Think about it, right? All the things we talk about over the years and what you know about these platforms, what I just said is absolutely true. So if you're looking for good things, that's not where you'll find it. And just because it's not there doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? You can have a whole slew of stuff going on over here that is pro-human rights, helping people, salvaging lives, saving people, and you're not going to hear a word about it on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, X, right? Even Blue Sky. Just not going to hear about it because the media doesn't report on it or they don't want to talk about it. So there is a lot of bad things to focus your attention on, but it's kind of like, okay, here's another little thing for you. It's a little bit like cult recovery or how I think about cult recovery and talk to my clients and talk to people about this. it's a 50-50 proposition when you're dealing with recovery. You cannot just deal with and harp on all the negatives that have happened to you, or all the trauma that you have, or all the bad experiences. There's another side of the coin. It's a binary, and the other side of it is resilience and gaining resiliency, because that's a really important characteristic to deal with and confront and handle future trauma or traumatic episodes. So maybe they won't be so traumatic for you if you are resilient. And that's something that you can train and discipline yourself to do or have. And that's a whole thing. So it's a half and half proposition. Yeah, deal with the trauma, get the therapy, get the psychoeducation, learn what happened to you, and get it out of your body. But resiliency is what builds you back up, so that, and it goes back and forth. And that's my theory. That's my take on things with recovery, and also with as an analogy, right? Dealing with the bad news of the world and our current circumstances. And there's a lot of valid reasons to be concerned. But don't forget to look at the other side and be building yourself up as much as the media or social dynamics are trying to maybe tear you down. I really hope that helps. That is the best that I'm doing right now, trying to deal with this stuff. I hope that helps. Okay, let's just check in here. All right. Ex-witness Vernon, do you feel like this is the last week of freedom as we know it in America with Trump coming in? No, I don't feel that way at all. I want to be really super honest with you guys that I don't feel that way at all. Trump is a let's raid the cookie jar kind of person. He makes noises. Remember how many noises he made in his first term? Remember how many noises he made on the campaign trail both times that were just nothing burgers that went nowhere because they never meant anything? That's an awful lot of what that guy is. He's a walking bluster machine. And the anxiety comes from not knowing what to listen to and what not, what to take seriously and what not. You almost can't know. And it's very frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. No question about it. It is an unstable situation. He is an unstable man. So, we got issues there, but he's not going to destroy our democracy. And we do not have a situation where these people are going to come in and literally tear apart the structure of our government. At least I don't think so. That's my take. You asked, and that's how I see it. I don't think so. I think this is not the beginning, but this is sort of the beginning was really more Nixon and Reagan, right? But this is a time period where there could be an acceleration in what you might call the structural decay that is sort of the rot that is sort of set in various levels of our government as a way of putting it. So goddamn complicated, right? Try these generalizations, which really barely kind of work, but there will be if there's a little bit of a fire right now in the integrity of the United States system, with economic strains, with job market problems, with the inflation issues, with the COVID trauma, with all these things, right? There's fires for sure. No question about it. We are seeing this and we're alarmed by it. Is somebody going to put that fire out? What the hell's going on here? I thought you guys were supposed to be putting the fire out. Well, you're going to see over the next 4 years, people throwing some accelerant on that. No question, right? That'll happen. But remember the fact that you can almost count on unpredictable events throwing off almost anything anybody's got planned right now. And I throw that out there as a little bit of a good thing because interfering when Mother Nature or other countries or other situations throw themselves on the track in front of the Trump train and, and possibly derail it or at least slow it down for a while, that's probably a good thing, right? So let's keep that in mind too, right? Is we never have an accurate prediction of where things are going. We only have estimates and flags that we can look at: green flag, red flag, green flag, red flag, and hope we're right. There are 1,000 wrong predictions for every right one, right? So sum total of all of this, coming back to your question, Vernon, on, is this the last week of freedom, is no, it's not. And if I'm wrong about that and things are significantly worse than I think they are, then, okay, shit, sorry, but I don't think I am. The structural integrity of our state system, of our federation of states, is strong. Look at what's happening. Look at when real disaster strikes, not talk, not internet chatter. If you can somehow take all that internet chatter and bot traffic and foreign interference and just put it in a box, things quiet way down, and just start, and then you get to focus your attention on the real world and what's really happening. But it takes a fantastic force of will to shut all that noise down. That's my first challenge to you guys, right? Is get out of that echo chamber of doom. I don't think it's helping any of us right now. And I think, in fact, in a way, I think it's preventing solutions, right? Because it takes up so much headspace and so much emotional space. All right, enough about that. X sign. Would you consider having coffee with one of your critics, or is that an absolute no-no? Have you ever become friends with a YouTube follower? No, I have had coffee and lunch with people who have followed me on YouTube before. I have been taken to lunch, I've been taken to dinner, I've gone out socially with people who have invited me to do so. It's okay. I'm down. It's not a problem, right? I don't do that in the direction of trying to create parasocial relationships, certainly. But I think at that point, if I'm meeting people in real life and actually interacting with them, then there's some degree of actual social reality to that. And that's how I come at it. I'm not coming at it with let's go out in the real world with this person so I can milk them or something, right? Or I can get some, give me some gold or something. I'm not doing that. So yeah, no, I've done that. And yes, I do believe that I have become friends with some of my YouTube followers in an online sense. But yes, I don't think of online friendships the same way I think of real life friendships, certainly. But I still think of them as a kind of friendship, when there's good intent and a degree of loyalty and care and kindness and that kind of thing. That's all I can ask out of a friend, really, right? Okay. Yes, I think I answered that one. Let's carry on here. Where are we? 208. Okay, good. How's it going so far? Let me check in with our... where's the... there it is. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Seem to be doing all right. Okay. All right, Lutz Albrecht asks, political question. Thoughts on Trump's billionaire elite realizing they just can't bulldoze the government, Doge, D-O-G-E, without a plan, some recent court rulings, a good sign for democracy? Yeah, this whole thing is a bit of a clusterfuck, isn't it? Right? The whole Musk... Ramsey, whatever, the whole, we're gonna de-swamp the government or something. It really is just a bunch of idiots. I mean, and I don't mean idiots like these are low IQ people. I just mean we're dealing with people who are not. They're making what's the line from Top Gun, right? Your mouth is writing checks your body can't cash. I mean, I believe we are seeing Elon Musk deteriorate mentally in front of us, is what I'm sort of seeing, and I hope I'm wrong about that. But there is going to be some kind of reckoning coming with these billionaires. This is too loud. There's too much attention on it. It's not a secret. This stuff I talk about with the economics and all this is not a secret. Lots and lots and lots and lots of people are talking about this. And that's one of the reasons why I have a little bit of hope, actually. Maybe I shouldn't, but I do. Because the one thing we have going for us in a weird kind of way, not weird, actually, that we have going for us, is while the internet has been the source of a great deal of psychological damage to us in the way it's conditioned us into short attention span theater, it also has sped things up, including the dissemination of information, how fast events happen, and how fast change can be elicited. How quickly a lot of people can find out about something and can become very outraged about it. That is a very different thing from how the world used to work when things moved a lot slower. It took months, weeks, months, even years to get done what can now be accomplished in days or weeks, realistically, right? In certain circumstances, including government intervention, government regulation, and government application of the law or policy. So the world has sped up, and that can be bad and is bad in some ways, and we harp an awful lot on how it's bad, but there's also a lot of these good ways. And so the raised awareness about cults, for example, over the last many years has resulted in some of these cults, at least, when we look at Scientology, man, that thing is going down. I mean, it's just going nowhere. And I got some more things to share with you guys about some Scientology stuff in the hopefully near future. Because there's been a whole model shift in Scientology, which just kind of happened in front of everybody's eyes, but I don't know that it's been analyzed appropriately. So I'm gonna try to do that. But I say all that because I think that things can change for the better as quickly as they can change for the worse. That's where I was going with all that. Is that fast, rapid response and enforced change from the public can happen just as much as these jerk-offs, billionaires, unelected officials who nobody wants there, trying to, effect all this change, right? I guess we're going to see how this battles out. The funny thing about all this is all of this can, like I said, can change on a dime, so we're going to have to see how this plays out. But let me leave this as my final statement on this question. There's an awful lot of surety on the part of an awful lot of people that really, really horrible things are going to happen of a very specific nature. People predict bad things all the time is another way of saying that, right? And what? 99% of the time they're wrong? Other bad things happen that nobody saw coming is what tends to happen. It's not what you think, right? It's the stuff you didn't think about that ends up biting you in the butt. So yes, I do believe that all of that is working in our favor when it comes to Vivek and Musk and these guys getting in there thinking they're going to, pull some, revolutionary act or something or pull the rug out from under our government. I just don't think it's as easy as these guys think it is. And I don't think they're anywhere near as smart as they think they are. I really, really believe that. And so I believe every one of these guys has a fate with destiny coming up in the not too distant future. And I don't mean some violent thing. I just mean, a wake-up call of, oh, who knew this was so hard? Remember when Trump said, oh, healthcare, wow, yeah, this is really hard. Remember how on the campaign trail it was all easy peasy, lemon squeezy? Not this time, but last time, I remember that. I remember him going on at a mad rate about how he was going to fix the healthcare system and how easy it was going to be. And then he became president and was like, this is complicated. Who knew it was so complicated? And I'm like, dude, everybody knew it was that complicated. You know? I think that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. And it sounds so alarming, but really, look at who's saying this stuff. You know, these are not the brightest bulbs. They really aren't. Okay. Exactly, Lulu Baru. I mean, Musk has never created a goddamn thing. He is a professional plagiarist. He's exactly like L. Ron Hubbard that way. He takes credit for everybody else's moves and becomes a monster when you call him on it. Right? He will destroy you for calling out his fakery. Musk is not a good person on any metric. Just ask his daughter. Okay. All right. Okay, Bernita Jenkins, do you believe the rumors that the Church of Scientology has influence in the White House? I'm part of the rumor mongering on the fact that the Church of Scientology has influence in the White House. Yeah, I do believe that. Trish Duggan is the world's largest donor to Scientology that we know of in terms of public records and or information that we have, and is definitely a massive, massive Trump supporter. If Trish Duggan really wanted to see Donald Trump, she could. If Tom Cruise really wanted to see Donald Trump, he could. If Grant Cardone really wanted to see Donald Trump, he could. And I brought that up. So, yeah, I definitely believe that. And we do not want that. And the people who voted for that did so mostly in ignorance of that possible outcome. It's a very, very small part of the big picture of awful that is the Trump administration, but it's very, very real. And from the Scientology watching world, it has absolutely astounded me that anybody can't see this for what it is, because the parallels to Scientology are so crystal clear that I feel like, how do you not see this? You know, but people don't. So what are you going to do? All right. Demi M. Have they gone after Leah for getting her degree too? Sorry, Chris, none of your life is their business. They're losers. Thank you, Debbie. This is in reference to the education thing earlier. I've not heard anybody going after Leah for getting her degree. One of the reasons is because Leah, of course, is getting her 4-year bachelor's degree first. She didn't go straight to a master's program like I did. And there's a lot of people who just seem to be personally offended by that. And it's very weird. It's a very, very weird thing to be all pissed off about, as I said earlier. So we're going to go with that. Now, it looks like we have some more questions, and I need to jump up for a second and let Benson into the house. So I do not have, oh, there it is. So I'm going to put my standby screen on for a second, and I'm going to be right back. Oh boy. Okay, we're back. Benson's got the zoomies, so if you hear anything in the background, that's what it is. I'm here at home alone with Benson, so live, baby. All right, let's carry on here with our Q&A. All right. So, ex-witness Vernon asks, what happens if a psychologist wants to begin services? Oh, good question. Do they have to get another job? If a psychologist were seriously coming into the Church of Scientology to get services, they would be security checked. Pretty sure that's what would happen if they were allowed on service. But it would very much depend. Now, psychiatry and psychology are two very different things in terms of Scientology, right? They really, really hate the psychiatrists. Psychologists, they might be a little bit more open. Oh, you're just a family counselor. You're just a child counselor. You're just, whatever, sex counselor or something, right? It's like, oh, okay. They're not necessarily going to be like totally down with that. They're going to think this person is like riddled with false information, and they're going to have a lot of handling to do with the person. But they're not going to kick them out of the building or say they can't do Scientology just because they're a psychologist. But it would be interesting. There would be some very interesting individual reactions to that, church to church to church, I think, depending on who you're talking to. That would be interesting. I'd be a little curious myself to see what would happen now. That would be interesting, yeah. There is no psychiatrist anywhere who would ever be allowed to do services without not doing that job anymore, though. That's for sure. They would definitely have a problem with that. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, here's a question. Japan of Green Gables, I'm looking at a copy of The Bridge. What is the South Africa rundown? It is a rundown of auditing for people from South Africa. L. Ron Hubbard said that the South African case is a special kind of case that requires a special kind of handling in order to open it up or deal with a particular thing that happens in South Africa. And I think it has to do, if I remember right, I think this also has to do with overts and withholds and stuff. I'm not, because I've never really studied the South African rundown. So I know it exists. I know why it exists, but I don't know specifically what technical thing it is doing to be the South African rundown. Let me go ahead, since I've got you on here. Let's see if there's anything online about this. Okay, handle the factor of help. Okay, so it's a rundown that deals with help. Okay, the subject of help. Hubbard would go on a roll from time to time about how the subject of help would need to be addressed or dealt with a person because there was so much betrayal or so much stress or trauma basically connected with the subject of help, whether helping others or being helped, or others helping others. There would be some kind of, this would drive people crazy or depress them or make them anxious or stressed out. And the subject of help would need to be addressed. And so it looks like the South African rundown sort of takes that to a higher level. Yeah, here's a rundown on it from the Church of Scientology website. This is actually from the description of the third South African ACC, an advanced clinical course, a lecture series that Hubbard gave in South Africa. When was the ACC? It was February. Looks like it was 1961. And it says here, now he embarked on the task of overcoming the only remaining barrier, cracking the toughest of tough cases. A new assessment scale was released during this conference, oriented around the make-break point of a case. Trained on processes utilizing this scale, auditors made short work of the toughest of those tough cases, cracking every one in 4 weeks. So this is where we get goals and goal assessments. Okay, fine. So if I dived into a little Scientology minutia for you there, sorry. But it looks like it has to do with help and with cracking tough cases, right? So that's what I can give you on that one right now. Lacking the full technical rundown on it, because that's something that's a part of Scientology I never dived into. I was never really interested in the South African case because I never had to deal with them. Which is funny because when I was on the RPF, my twin was South African, but we never had any of the South African stuff come up. We just did the RPF and did the FP, the false purpose rundown on each other. Henny. Were the drones used as a distraction? I don't think so. But they were certainly distracting, weren't they? They really were. I got to be honest with you guys. I think it's a huge nothing burger. I really don't think there's anything to that whole drone story. I think it is literally much ado about nothing. But you know, Japan of Green Gables. What's the relevance of the numbers 0 and 8 in Scientology? Like those books with 880 and 8808 in the title. Okay. L. Ron Hubbard used 0 to indicate nothing, a void, null, right? Null value. And or a kind of unexistence, a state of not that you don't exist, but you kind of feel like you don't. And 8 would be the opposite, right? Would be full existence, would be infinity. 8 is the infinity symbol turned on its side, as Hubbard is so keen to point out over and over and over and over and over again. So those are the initial significances of those two things. Now, Hubbard in the early 50s was really keen to try to use symbolic logic and formulas, symbolic formulas, to lay out Scientology principles. And 880 and 8808 are two such symbolic logic kind of phrases or ideas. 8808 stands for you achieve infinity, the first 8, by taking the apparent infinity of the physical universe and reducing it to 0, and taking the apparent 0 of you as a thetan and increasing your potentials and abilities to infinity. So you achieve infinity, right? 8008 is that formula. Hope that makes sense. 880 is, I don't know. I can't remember what that one is, but it's not the same as the 8808. So that's what those numbers are about in those book titles, and that's what Hubbard was trying to communicate in that stuff. And if you crack open those books, he'll tell you all about it. It's in there in all of its ridiculousness. As I love to share with you guys, I took those books. Hubbard talks an awful lot in those books about electronics, real down-to-earth, provable stuff. Right? He talks about energy flows. He talks about pressor beams and tractor beams and the generation of electricity and grounding and things like that, right? Principles that are things that people know about. And I took that to a couple, a physicist and electronics engineer guys that I know down at the hub, and they couldn't stop laughing at the absolute ridiculousness of what L. Ron Hubbard had to say about electricity and how it works. Like, he got it all so wrong. And I feel sorry for Scientologists, myself included when I was a Scientologist, who thought we understood electronics reading Hubbard. Not even remotely close, like way off. So that's kind of fun. All right. Henny asks, also, if tapes were taken from Scientology showing abuses, wouldn't that be enough to stop them? You can see I'm having trust issues. Okay. If there were present time evidence of David Miscavige or high-level Scientologists engaging in physically abusive behavior, financial crimes, such as provable credit card or insurance fraud or something like that, and there were actual paperwork, video work, or some other kind of evidence that was hard evidence of this, then and only then would you get a possibility of prosecution. If you had that evidence, and if the FBI or a county or state prosecutor were willing to go after Scientology with it, they could build a case around that. They cannot apparently seem to build a case around testimony alone, or the memories and testimony of people like Mike Rinder and so many others who have come out and talked to the FBI and talked to law enforcement officials about Scientology and what it's up to, right? They seem to be stopped on that particular point of, no, we need something from now, we need it out of the church, kind of thing. So that's where I'm, that's what I heard. That's kind of where I think that it comes from. So yes, if we had stuff like that, great, right? But it would have to be conclusive evidence. Otherwise it's not, right? Okay. Oh, for sure. Fluffy Wickets asks, Sherry Frank has written a memoir. I get the sense that Ruby Frank got addicted to parasocial relationships she invoked. Is that possible for a creator? Yes, it absolutely is. A lot of the talk that I've given about parasocial relationships with creators has assumed that their creator is rational, that they don't have something like seriously wrong with them. Ruby Frank definitely has something seriously wrong with her. And when you have a situation like that, then all bets are off, right? Then anything is possible. And then you have a needy personality who is like a sponge for admiration and attention and is engaging in an awful lot of attention-seeking behavior because they need that so badly. YouTube is the last place such a personality should be because it's not good for them, because they're trying to feed a need that they never will be able to feed on YouTube. Because at the end of the day, YouTube are parasocial relationships. It's not a real thing, right? It's comment section. It's comments. That's it. That's my interaction level with you guys. Real world could be, emails or phone calls or, real life visits. And then, like I said, you're kind of going down the path of when you're an irrational, needy, emotionally traumatized, like screwed up person, like the Franks, then you're going to get bad results from this because you're using it for purposes it was not really intended. Okay. Young Matador. Whilst you were in Church Scientology, did you ever meet any parishioners that joined during the 60s, 70s hippie free love era? Lots. What were their feelings about being in a very autocratic, rules-based group? The best answer to your question, I will answer you, but the best answer to your question is for you to go dig up the, I think it's 3-part, maybe 4-part interview that I did with my mom. I think it's called Me, My Mom, and Scientology or something like that, right? And it's in different parts. And that will give you a very complete answer to this question. But a summary answer to this question is I did meet lots and lots of them. In fact, I was in Scientology in the 70s, growing up in it. One of my parents were involved during that era. And at the public level, the short answer to this question is at the public level, it wasn't quite perceived, at least, as autocratic and rules-based as it is now. Scientology now is it's a different experience than it was in the 70s, isn't it? And I think anybody who did Scientology in the 70s can attest. The environment, the culture, the attitude, the vibe of the place is so different. And that's just the truth, right? It's not a matter of it was better in the 70s. I'm just saying that it was different in the 70s. It was still a destructive cult that was scamming you out of money and screwing you over psychologically. And the Sea Org was at its worst in the 70s in a lot of ways. But but at the public level, the experience of Scientology was that it was a friendly, open, hey man, we're here to go spiritually free, baby, kind of attitude. It was a groovy, loosey goosey kind of place. And nobody was giving you a hard time about masturbating. Nobody was giving you a hard time about having a girlfriend out of wedlock or any of your sexual behavior at all. Nobody cared. They were there to get spiritual enlightenment and learn all this really groovy stuff about electronics and mental image pictures and energy flows and how your thetan works, and all this kind of thing. This was the 60s and 70s of Scientology. So it was Hubbard had rules, obviously. He's the one who put all this stuff down. But the real nasty of Scientology was going on at the highest levels of Scientology at that time. The lower level stuff was certainly nasty, and there were some amazingly horrific stories of things that happened to public people, public level Scientologists. So I'm not trying to paint with too broad a brush here, but I'm trying to paint a picture that, broadly speaking, it was not so rules-based as it is now for the public. There we go. I said that like 4 times, so I'm going to move on. Okay, Rebecca B. Outside of Scientology content, what YouTube channels are you currently watching? Okay, great question. And I will tell you. Actually, let me just go over to YouTube and look at my subscriber list. I'll tell you. Let's see here. I watch History Buffs. Great channel for getting some movie reviews and some real history at the same time. I've been watching a very interesting commentator, Vlad Vlexer. Very interesting stuff about Russia and international relations. Gary's Economics is a great channel to watch for economic information from somebody on the kind of on the inside. Legal Eagle is a channel I check out often on legal stuff. And I really, really like Josh Johnson, who's a stand-up. He runs a YouTube channel, does stand-up. I think he's a writer on The Daily Show, and but he runs around the country doing stand-up, and he's very, very good. So I watch him a lot. And of course, John Atack. Let's see here. Any others I want to throw out at you? Tasting History is a very interesting channel. Tasting History with Max Miller. You get these recipes and food stuff, but you also get a history lesson, right? I kind of have a thing about history, you might have noticed. Oh, and finally, I'll tell you, In Deep Geek, which is kind of a great channel for analysis and breakdowns of Tolkien and fantasy literature and stuff like that. Really like that stuff. So that's some of the stuff that I watch a lot of when I'm not, with you guys, and an awful lot of one-offs. I spend a lot of time on YouTube actually, being entertained, but also education. I watch a lot of economic, demographic breakdowns. I've been watching an awful lot of that stuff since November, just trying to get my head around what's going on in the world for real, right? You hear about things like population decline and growth and stuff like that, and there's a lot of social back and forth on that stuff, and I wanted to get my wits around what that's really all about, so I deep dived into that. And of course, the history stuff has mostly been in the direction of political, ideological history stuff, the anti-psychosis stuff, right, that I've been sharing with you guys. Where do I get all that stuff from? A lot of one-off channels, researching that. But Gary's Economics channel is really good. He's British, but he speaks with some degree of authority and knowledge about the inside skinny on the economy, both in the UK and the US. And he's got very, I like his attitude. I like the way he approaches the work. So that's the kind of stuff I've been checking out lately. I am definitely going to have to go in a minute, so I'm going to do like 1 or 2 more of these, and I see we've got a few more in the queue. This has been a very, very good week for questions. So here we go. Superman, 1972 US. Hi, Chris. Happy Sunday. I am a few weeks late with this question, but have you seen the new Superman movie trailer? If so, your thoughts. Thank you for asking. And I thought it was decent, but I am... Let me just encapsulate all of it with saying I am barely holding on to hope that superhero movies from these major DC and Marvel studios can be done right anymore. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that Superman will be amazing under James Gunn's tutelage. I very much liked what James Gunn did with The Suicide Squad, not the original Will Smith Suicide Squad. That was crap. That was David Ayer, and his work was corrupted according to him. And anyway, it was just a mess. But the second Suicide Squad that James Gunn did, I was like, okay, that was good. I was invested in that one. And of course, the Pattinson Batman, Matt Reeves Batman, very, very, very good. So I hold out I'm on a thread right now, right? Holding on to hope that this is going to be good. All the elements are there, of course, right? And I like Nicholas Hoult. He looks like he's going to be a good Lex Luthor. You know, we'll see. Never saw the dog before, so that'll be interesting. Not quite sure how that works, but there we go. Pete Jensen just watched Ready Player One last night. This may have been brought up before, but the antagonist is a spitting image of David Miscavige. Fair enough. Okay, DS. I fear that my partner is getting sucked into Scientology. What should I do? Well, I'm not sure, given that that's all that we've got right now as far as information. But what I can tell you in very, very, very general sense is get them information about Scientology so that they know what it is that they're actually getting involved in. Both sides it. You know, however you get them to get the information, get it to them. Obviously, don't force it on them, but you know what I mean. Have conversations. Be open. Be interested and listen to why they are interested in Scientology. What is driving that interest? Is there a problem they're trying to solve? An emotional need they're trying to fill? Some trauma? What's why? Why is Scientology possibly a solution for them? Get them to tell you why. Don't assume you know anything about why they're reaching for it. Find out from them. And then see what it is that they're trying to deal with or solve. And is there some other solution that's not a goddamn cult that they could possibly do instead? That's very just kind of real super general advice. I've got a lot of videos on this channel that are about how to talk to a Scientologist. I've got a playlist with Rachel Bernstein and another playlist with John Atack with individual episodes about how to deal with Scientologists, talk to Scientologists, get people out of Scientology, help people with this topic. So there is other stuff on this channel that goes into a lot more detail about how to do that work that I just kind of generalized. But it really is listening more than talking, being very curious and interested, and not attacking them for their interest in Scientology. Do not attack them or make them feel stupid or make them feel bad or wrong. Instead, just get real interested, right? I hope that is applicable advice to your situation, and that it's helpful. Okay, and with that, I think we're going to have to wrap up because I got to go and prep for my show with Tony and record with him. So, guys, I want to thank you, and gals, I want to thank you all for coming around and listening to me blather on at a mad rate, as I always do. This is really one of my favorite times of the week to just interact with you guys. And I feel lately I've been able to kind of let my hair down a little bit more with recent events and things happening the way that they are and rolling out the way that they are. I just feel a lot more relaxed these days in front of the mic, and a lot more willing to just be open with you about, you know, where I'm coming from, what I'm trying to do, and what I know and don't know about all this stuff, you know. Some of the stuff I don't know, but some of it I know a lot. So anyway, I really want to thank you guys for coming around and paying attention and asking me questions. I love it. I love this. So with that, bye-bye.